Hey everyone! This video is going to be very different from my usual content, but I am just so excited about this game I had to make this. Master Detective Archive's Rain Code is coming out on June 30th for the Nintendo Switch. The game is being made by Spike Chunsoft and written by Kazutaka Kodaka, who was responsible for the Danganronpa series. As a massive fan of Danganronpa myself, I cannot wait for this game to release. So, in celebration of the game coming out exactly 2 months from now, I wanted to look at all the trailers for this game and give my thoughts on each of the characters, as well as trying to predict what kind of role they might play in the story and gameplay. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Yuma Cocohead, that name sounds really goofy, is our protagonist. He's voiced by Lucian Dodge, who played Hifumi and Kibo in the Danganronpa games, as well as Felix in Fire Emblem Three Houses, and plenty of other roles in popular media. Yuma is a detective, and he has amnesia. Sound familiar? Yeah, one thing I've noticed from these trailers is that they're really playing up the similarities to Danganronpa with their character archetypes, which is exactly why I do not trust them. They're making this so unapologetically reminiscent of Danganronpa that there's no way they're not going to flip these tropes on their heads and give us something completely unpredictable. Yuma has pretty much the same general concept that Kyoko did in Danganronpa 1. Amnesiac detective trying to find out what it is he's missing. It seems like Yuma's amnesia will be a driving force in the plot of this game, given how much they emphasize it in these trailers. This is definitely going to have some kind of big twist attached to it. Off the top of my head, I can imagine Yuma actually being a part of the Amaterasu Corporation before losing his memories, or perhaps being some kind of criminal. We actually don't really know how far Yuma's amnesia goes. Does he not remember anything aside from his name? Did he just forget a specific part of his memory that will come into play later? Is Yuma even actually his real name, or is it just one he gave himself because he doesn't remember his real name? It might be the latter, since in one of the trailers he literally forgets what the name of his condition is.
Do I have... what was it called? Amnesia?
There's a lot of interesting directions this could go in. Along with Yuma, we have Shinigami, a little ghost who can transform into a human form and is supposedly going to be Yuma's assistant in the game, helping him become a detective and solving the mysteries. According to the official Rain Code website, she's a death god contracted to haunt Yuma. She usually appears in her spirit form. Only visible to Yuma, Shinigami is constantly floating and bobbing along at his side. Though cheerful and chatty, this death god's sense of morality is quite far removed from that of humans. Her words and actions sometimes confuse Yuma. In the Mystery Labyrinth, she transforms into a humanoid form and has the power to intervene in matters. She's pretty much going to be the mascot character of this game. She's already been plastered all over the merchandise. She refers to Yuma as her master, very reminiscent of a certain DR character, and she introduces him to the Mystery Labyrinth, which seems to be similar to Persona 5's Palaces, where you travel inside someone's mind and defeat their mystery phantom, a sort of manifestation of that person's true nature. This is also where the Danganronpa-esque gameplay comes in, cutting through your opponent's statements to find contradictions. They even do this "no, that's wrong" splash screen. There's no way this isn't on purpose. Shinigami herself is a bit suspicious to me. I'm excited to find out more about where she comes from, or who or what she really is. Why does she know so much about the Mystery Labyrinth, and why was she contracted to Yuma specifically? Now, let's get into the titular Master Detectives. These characters are the ones I'm most excited to dive into because of how interesting their abilities and personalities are. Each detective has a forensic forte, essentially ultimate talents but more sci-fi. The first character we have is Zilch Alexander. His forensic forte is animal investigation. What this means is that he's capable of taking control of animals to gather information in places that humans can't go. I have no idea how this could be used in-game, but seeing as Yuma is capable of using other people's forensic fortes, as shown in the trailers, maybe this means we'll get to play as an animal at some point. Perhaps one of the cases we'll solve will take place in a shelter or a zoo, and we'll have to take control of an animal to reach areas that are off-limits to normal humans. Looking at this character design, he's absolutely giving me Gundam vibes with that dark aesthetic and all the animals around him. According to his description, he does seem to have a softer side just like Gundam. He loves the harmony between people and nature and specializes in dealing with those who would try to disrupt it. He's definitely much nicer than he comes off on the surface. I absolutely love the cat ear hat he has on too. And is that a live snake crawling around him? Seems like he knows his way around taming any kind of animal. Next up is Desuhiko Thunderbolt. His forensic forte is disguise. He can completely change his body to look identical to that of anyone he pleases. I can see this ability being used to sneak into specific areas by disguising yourself as someone else. Judging by his description, he's definitely going to be the goofy comic relief character of the cast. A young man with a goofball nature who likes hitting on women under the guise of investigation. Desuhiko's goal is to become famous as a mystery-solving superstar detective. I don't know if it's just the wording on that last statement, but it seems like he only wants to be a detective for the fame and fortune it might bring. Also, doesn't the splash art kind of remind you of Tsumugi with all the clothing pieces flying around him? His ability to disguise himself as anyone could also easily lead to tension in the cast if he decides to go around pretending to be one of the other detectives. Next we have Melanie Goldmine. Her forensic forte is spiritism. She is a spirit medium, which means she can use her own body as a vessel to summon the spirits of dead people. However, in order to summon a spirit, she has to first wear the clothes of the deceased individual. This is likely a limitation added to stop this ability from being too OP. It also matches well with her personality. A glamorous woman with a keen intellect behind her flamboyant appearance. She's a fashionista whose mind is often focused on clothes. She's quick to like anyone with a body type that would suit her favorite outfits. Again, with the eerily familiar character archetypes, strangely enough, the fact that she is so similar to Junko makes me think she isn't gonna be that important. She'll probably get plenty of focus and be an interesting character, but she won't be a twist villain or anything. She has a really cool looking design. I love the vibrant blue color of her suit and that small bit of it on her hair. Obuki Clockbird is our next character, and her forensic forte is Time Leap. She can rewind time to change things, but after time has been turned back once, it cannot be turned back beyond that point. From a gameplay perspective, this probably means she can only use this ability once per case. Her description states, because of her upbringing as a lady of the world-famous Clockbird family, she is a bit naive. She has a uniquely peculiar way of thinking, which can frustrate and confuse the people she talks to. It seems like she's going to be similar to Sonia from Danganronpa 2, in that she doesn't really know much about the outside world due to her sheltered childhood as part of such an esteemed, probably rich family. Character design-wise, she looks to have a very calm and serene presence. What I'm really interested in is that necklace she's wearing, which seems to have some sort of special trinket attached to it. Given how they show this thing glowing in the trailers, I'm guessing this is what activates her forensic forte, but that begs the question of whether the other characters also need an external source for their powers, or if she's the only one. Zange Eraser looks to be a very interesting character. His forte is thoughtography, which basically allows him to transfer his memories into actual photos on electronic devices such as smartphones or computers. He's described as a quiet old detective with the solemn expression of a battle-hardened veteran. He never talks about his past, but his style of speech suggests ties to a government organization. So he's a fair bit older than the rest of the cast, and he seems to know something we don't about the true nature of the World Detective Organization. His character design is very striking, with his glowing red eye, which I'm guessing has something to do with his forte. He almost looks like a villain with the way he's posed on the splash art. I'm almost wondering if he has some kind of tie to the Amaterasu Corporation. He'd fit right in with them. Up next is Halara Nightmare. Her forte is post-cognition, the ability to see how a crime scene appeared at the time it was first discovered. So gameplay-wise, pretty much a more accurate version of the Little Thief from Ace Attorney Investigations. This is a very useful ability in case someone tries to tamper with a crime scene or remove evidence later on. Although it specifically says at the time it was first discovered, meaning there is an interval of time this ability can't see. The killer could still mess with the crime scene before someone else actually finds it. She's voiced by Amberly Connor, who played Faye in Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia, as well as Toy Chica from FNAF. She's always cool under fire and has solved many difficult cases through precise judgment. Halara only believes in money and will not accept a request without payment, regardless of who the client may be. So it seems like she's a very skilled detective who can solve the most complex of cases. Someone who would be very good to have on your super special detective team, but she only accepts cases if she gets paid enough. This is pretty interesting, and I can't wait to see how her character will be fleshed out. What is up with those syringe-shaped earrings she's got on? Of all the weird fashion choices I've seen from Ryoko Matsuzaki's character designs, this might be the most out there. Then we have Apex Logan. Nope, not Apex Legends. Apex Logan. His forte is life detection, the ability to locate any living thing within a 50-meter radius. This is pretty useful to make sure there aren't any unwanted eavesdroppers on important conversations. Born to lawyer parents, he lost them at an early age and lived a rough life in the slums from then on. Due to these circumstances, he tends to be rude and tries to solve problems with violence. He certainly seems a lot more antagonistic than the rest of the cast, probably a result of this dark past. He's definitely going to cause problems with his rashness and unwillingness to trust others. Next, we have my personal favorite member of this cast, Pucci Lavmin. She is adorable. Her forte is audible aptitude, which allows her to hear even the faintest noises from far away. This is useful for the exact opposite reason of Apex's forte, since it allows her to easily listen in on conversations she isn't a part of. However, she needs to focus really hard to be able to use this ability. There's a scene in the trailer where she tells everyone to shut up so she can hear better. It's also one of my favorite voice lines I've heard so far.
Shut up, you brain-dead idiots!
There's one thing about her description that captures my interest, however. Despite her childlike appearance, she has machine-like composure and mental processing speed. This, as well as what we've heard from her voice in the trailers, leads me to believe she might actually be a robot or something. And yes, I know what you're all thinking. There are some obvious obvious Chiaki parallels with that bunny hairpin and robotic demeanor. Again, I'm pretty sure they're doing this on purpose to make us believe she's going to play a role similar to Chiaki, when in reality she's probably completely different. After her is Vivia Twilight. His forte is spectral projection, which allows him to Danny Phantom himself and become a ghost. In this form, he can walk through a wall, disappear, and fly! Well, I don't know if he can fly, but it'd be cool. He has a decadent and aesthetic atmosphere about him, often lying down in various places, such as the fireplace at the agency or under the hotel's grand piano. His personality can be described as self-indulgent. He seems much more competent than he lets on, and I have a feeling he'll be one of the smarter characters in the cast. I also just love his forte. He's definitely one of my favorite characters so far. Also, this line.
I wanna die someday.
One of the most interesting of the bunch, next up is number 1. He's voiced by Sung-Won Cho, aka the one and only ProZD. His forte is unknown. Of course, there's always one, isn't there? Actually, there's a lot about this guy we don't know. He's the only character to not have an introduction on the Spike Chunsoft website. I cannot for the life of me find any info on this guy. Based on his name, he's probably the leader of the WDO or something. I'm definitely interested in seeing where his character goes. The last member of the WDO is Yako Furio. According to the official description, he's head of the only agency in Kanai Ward, the Nocturnal Detective Agency. An aloof and elusive man, although not a master detective. He is certified by the World Detective Organizations, which suggests he is an excellent detective. That said, he is somewhat weak-kneed, and his agency's policy is to stay quiet and refrain from any overt behavior that might lead to conflict with the Amaterasu Corporation peacekeepers. This guy is the only member of the WDO who isn't actually a master detective, meaning he doesn't have a forensic forte. He also seems to be really afraid of the Amaterasu Corporation. One of his lines in the trailer suggests that he may have tried to go against them before and paid dearly for it. Speaking of said Amaterasu Corporation, let's talk about them, shall we? The Amaterasu Corporation deals in a wide variety of goods such as industrial products, electronic appliances, and pharmaceuticals, all of which can be found across all aspects of daily life. On the other hand, many dark rumors surround the company, leading to a saying among detectives, "Kick it and the dust comes off like a wall of smoke." Despite that, both the government and the World Detective Agency have been unable to intervene because of its great influence. Kanai Ward is under the de facto control of the Amaterasu Corporation, and its security department, the Peacekeepers, have taken on the role of the police. It seems like they've completely taken over Kanai Ward somehow. They've even managed to put this place in an endless state of rain, and this rain supposedly affects the human body somehow? They've been in control for about 3 years. The trailers don't give us any idea what their goals are, aside from just keeping the peace, which we all know is a load of BS. The only hint we have is that they're researching something. Then there's this part. Those who oppose Amaterasu are unjustly arrested, and cases it deems inconvenient are covered up. They're definitely up to something extremely shady. This whole mysteries are the greatest threat to humanity thing is absolutely a front to stop people from investigating them. The corporation is comprised of 6 leading members. Exactly 6, which, if this is anything like Danganronpa, leads me to believe we'll be taking on one of them each chapter. First off, we have Seth Burrows, Section Chief of the Amaterasu Corporation Peacekeepers Investigations Team. A mumbling, unhealthy-looking man, he habitually speaks through a megaphone to make up for his feeble voice. He seems to be the most analytical of the group, and he's in charge of interrogating people. His design is pretty unique. All 4 of the Amaterasu members who aren't the 2 leaders wear the same white uniform, but they each put their own twist on it. Seth wears a flowing blue coat with neon green laces coming out of the hood. Very garish. Next, we have Guillaume Hull, leader of the Counter-Terrorism Squad. A boisterous, fast-talking woman who tackles her work with enthusiasm and vigor. She seems very hyperactive and energetic. Kinda reminds me of Harley Quinn. She wears a pretty basic blue jacket over her uniform, but what really strikes me is her hair. Bright pink with light blue accents. Ibuki would be proud. Along with her is her second-in-command, Dominic Fulltank. You know, I compared Guillaume to Harley Quinn, but she might as well be Jinx, given how much this guy looks like Cyborg. He is over 2 meters tall. Though loyal to Guillaume and her orders, he sometimes has trouble following complex instructions. So it seems he's not the brightest of the bunch, but he more than makes up for it in sheer intimidation factor. This guy's got arm cannons, for crying out loud. He looks awesome. Being Guillaume's second-in-command, he's probably going to be very protective of her. I imagine we'll have to get through him before we defeat Guillaume. Next is Swank Katsonel, a prideful member of the Amaterasu Corporation Peacekeepers who love money. This guy gives off major tutorial boss vibes. He's the only one we've seen the Mystery Phantom form for, which leads me to believe he's going to be the first member we take down. His design is pretty neat, with a gaudy gold jacket over his suit and a bright pink tie. Now we get to the top dogs of Amaterasu, starting with Martina Electro, the vice director. She is Yomi's right hand and takes pride in the trust and affection he has for her. She has a coercive way with words and actions and has no mercy for those who defy her, becoming obedient only when Yomi is involved. She's probably going to be the penultimate boss before the climax of the game. Although I wonder if out of all these villains, she might be able to be redeemed at the end. There's really no signs of that happening, but if her loyalty to Yomi were to ever get shattered by him being a manipulative a-hole, I can definitely see her joining the good guys and taking him down. Overall, she seems pretty cool, and she's probably going to play a big role in the story, regardless if my theory is correct or not. Lastly, we have the man himself, the leader of the Amaterasu Corporation, Yomi Hellsmile. And with a name like that, you know exactly what this guy is all about. Despite having the face of a handsome young man, he is ruthless, finding joy in the misfortune of others, tearing people down, and even treating his underlings like expendable tools. He rules Kanai Ward with force and has established power within Amaterasu with his achievements. This is what I was talking about with Martina. Yomi's constant mistreating of the other members may very well cause her to turn against him. This guy seems like an absolute sadist. He also has a sword. You know who else has a sword? Yuma! At least in the Mystery Labyrinth. I can totally see a sword duel being part of the final boss fight in this game. Either way, I have the feeling this is going to be the type of villain who will be extremely fun to watch on screen and so satisfying to finally take down. Like Junko. So that's it for all the characters we've been introduced to so far. Let me know in the comments what you think of everyone in the cast, and if I got anything wrong or missed any details about a specific character, feel free to correct me. I cannot wait to play this game when it comes out, and I hope at least one of my predictions was correct. Until next time, see ya! Bye-bye!